Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
Hump Day. I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard.
Yes, here we are. And I will tell you, the news cycle has been absolutely crazy.
You think?
Yeah. And
You could have written a book about this. I used to say 5 or 10 years ago, you could have written a book about this 2 years ago and gotten thrown out of every publisher's office and said, nothing's that crazy.
I don't disagree with you. And I think that this Durham report, for us, it's not a bombshell. We knew what was going on, and we called it 3 years ago, at least. I'm very disappointed it took this long, especially since Durham said that they
this much.
Yes,
Yeah.
But Durham said that everyone cooperated, and it's like, then why did it take so long?
Yeah, exactly.
Just a question.
Imagine how long it would have taken if they hadn't cooperated.
Exactly.
But the point is, Brittany, this absolutely completely eviscerates the news media. I mean, it just lays them open like a surgeon. And they're sitting there saying, "Oh, there's nothing to this." In fact, wasn't Struck. It was the other disgraced FBI guy that is now working at the Communist News Network. It's amazing how these people are so disgraced in their business, and they get jobs. Suddenly they become journalists at CNN or messed up NBC.
Experts, actually.
Yeah.
The experts.
The experts. Yeah.
We need to stop listening to those people.
Said, well, we knew all this before. Well, if you knew all this before, then why'd you do it?
Did he have an answer for that?
Yeah, no, they didn't. And even Jake Tapper, had to finally admit that, maybe Donald Trump's innocent here. Do you think?
It was actually mostly, right? It mostly exonerates him. So they're trying to find some doubt in there still.
When you realize the Russians would have wanted Hillary to be president more than anything, the Chinese would have wanted Hillary to be the president more than anything. The Chinese are out there campaigning for Joe Biden. If your main enemy is campaigning for a particular office, then you shouldn't be voting for those people. It was Hillary that the Russians shouldn't have wanted in there, or should have wanted in there.
Well, and I think one of the things is that you look at all of the influence that the Clintons have had on a lot of things, as well as the Obama White House. They had a lot of influence as well. And when those, number one, they were trying to not get Trump into office. So can you imagine when all of the effort was put into getting this dossier, and they paid for it. Hillary Clinton paid for it. And all of that effort to keep one man out of office, and then what it looked like after he got in the White House, can you even imagine? We know a percentage of what was going on. And for him to accomplish what he accomplished with the fighting with his own administration to get things done, as well as with the deep state, I think it's pretty incredible that he had so many accomplishments, even though you do not hear about them on the mainstream media.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. What he managed to imagine, what he was able to get done, not only if he had not had all that other, if he'd had some of the support from his own party that he was having to put up with. If you remember, I was never so disappointed in my life as a guy became a Speaker of the House, who I thought one day was presidential material. And just turned into one of his adversaries. It was just incredible what this president what Donald Trump had to fight from his own party, much less what he had to fight from the Democrats and all these cretins now who are scrambling to wipe the blood off their hands.
So, do you think we're going to see any major arrests here?
No.
And I think here's the thing: if no one is punished for this, what good are laws? What good are we as a country?
We're supposed to be a country of laws, and it doesn't. Well, that's why Lady Justice has the scale and the blindfold on in the iconic statue, that we're supposed to weigh the evidence, and doesn't make any difference who's presenting it, how it's presented. If it is done, you got the good stuff, the bad stuff, and you make decisions from that point. And there's no politics involved whatsoever, but not with this administration and what they've done for the last, probably 8-10 years or maybe longer. maybe going back, you mentioned the Clintons,
Yep.
going back at least that far. And we know that that it goes back to JFK or FDR. Or you name the president, and you probably see where they've tried to manipulate the Justice Department and other departments to their own for their own aggrandizement.
Well,
So,
and who's they?
yeah,
Who is they?
I know.
I think that that's the hard thing to identify because,
The deep state.
yes.
And I don't think even Donald Trump knew how deep the deep state was.
Well, and how much influence a lot of these billionaires have on our politicians and on our government, and also other countries. I mean, the CCP is one of the worst people to have influence over our country, and right now we have a president that is bought and paid for by the Chinese.
And that's the horrible thing about most of the candidates and why they hated Donald Trump, because he couldn't be bought. See,
Well-
he already had the money. In fact, he didn't take a salary. He donated his presidential salary to charities.
Well, did you hear that Trump actually had another big win yesterday? Did you hear about it? He endorsed the primary candidate for governor in Kentucky, and DeSantis endorsed the other person. And the other person was more establishment, but Trump's choice actually picked up that nomination. So
I'll be darned. Well, good for him.
he's definitely doing pretty good in the endorsement category. So.
Yeah. So if you're waiting for the apologies and you're waiting for the arrests of these people, then you need serious psychiatric help.
But you know what? We do have someone on our side, Bill, and he says, you know what? There is something that they can do. Lindsey Graham, what can people do to make this right?
I'm hoping that somebody at the FBI will call up the people involved and say, I wasn't responsible for it, but I'm sorry it happened to you. This is not the FBI we want. I'd like Garland to call people up and say, this is not the DOJ we want. We're sorry.
So calling people and saying, I'm sorry, this wasn't my fault, but I'm sorry this is happening.
And
Will that fix everything?
I love my favorite FBI director, Mr. Wray.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't know
he's-
we were having favorites of this.
Yes. In fact, and I've always said I want the FBI that CBS shows us every Tuesday night, not the one we actually have.
That's a
but the
false
one-
reality.
Yeah, but the one they fabricate every Tuesday night. Good shows, as a matter of fact. But they manage to get in these racial jabs and white supremacy jabs all the time. But but Ray has said that these problems have already been taken care of. They've already implemented these things. So nothing to worry about here. Well,
Turns out I don't trust you.
Well, somehow I trust Josh Hawley, a great senator from Missouri, who said we need to get rid of the FBI. There's no fixing this. It needs to be dismantled. We need to come up with something else. Department of Homeland Security too. When George Bush came up with this idea of Department of Homeland Security, I said, Mr. President, this ain't a good idea. If you can have I agree to have some sort of a overall umbrella type, and the guy said, with the CIA needs to share information with the FBI, vice versa. The Highway Patrol from Maryland needs to share information that they might have with DOJ
Yeah,
of
that
some
makes
sort.
sense. Yeah.
But other than that, they shouldn't have their own. They shouldn't have their own vehicles. They shouldn't be thousands of employees and coming up. And they've come up with their own department and are running the other departments.
Well, here's the
Not
thing.
the best idea we ever had.
Well, here's the thing, Bill. You've lived a lot longer than I have. Do you feel safer?
It's because I'm old.
I didn't want to say it. But do you feel any safer today than you did 30 years ago?
No.
I can't say that I feel any safer than I did growing up. I would say that I feel less safe, especially when I'm seeing all of the destruction happening to the country, and that,
We rarely locked our doors.
well, that's the thing. Morality and corruption is taking over our society.
And then and then the story that I heard from my parents on all the things that they never thought about locking their car. They never thought about, and most of the time didn't lock our doors. If a neighbor came over, if they were good neighbors, it walked right
Just
in.
walked in, yep.
Hey, how you doing?
Yep.
Hey, have a cup of coffee.
I mean, I grew up in a small town. That's,
Mm-hmm.
how my parents are, but I don't even know if they still lock their doors. But I don't know. Things have changed a lot, and I will tell you, I check my doors quite frequently when I'm home. So,
We were told when this country was established that this system would work so long as you had people of integrity.
That's the key word.
Yeah, and if you had a good, this our Constitution was founded on the Judeo-Christian code. Every state every state constitution, including the United States Constitution, has God mentioned in the first or second sentence. And where are we now? Trying to get God out of here.
Well, and we're not in good shape, Bill.
No, we're in terrible shape.
I think, and I don't blame our representatives, but I think when they're in there too long, I think that they've just made too many concessions. And at a certain point, they're owned by lobbyists and they're owned by other people because they've made these concessions.
And again, going back to how the country was founded, they weren't supposed to be professional politicians.
Yes.
That's the reason that the congressional season is so short, 2
Yes.
years. They said you go up there for 2 years, you do your duty for the country, then you go back home to your farm or to wherever. We don't have many farms anymore because we don't need them because we have grocery stores.
Oh, geez.
Just in case,
Yeah.
in case you didn't know.
Definitely
that
not
man
true.
on the street. Yeah.
Definitely not true, but I think, and it's human nature, right? I think I think the way
Well, it
the
is.
Constitution is written is so beautiful because it's based off human behavior, and that hasn't changed. We can all be corrupted. There are things that have to keep us good, and I think religion is one of those things that keeps people on the straight and narrow.
It's the old saw that that most of us know by heart. That power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's the reason that George Washington said, "I don't want to be king. Don't make me king. I'll be president." And he's the one who set the. Thank God for him. He's the one who set the standard. But you go through English history alone, and see the good kings. You had a good king. Oh, that was great. But then the next guy or gal comes along, and they're not so much, and you're stuck with them.
Well, and they played by their own rules, right?
Yeah,
It was like
exactly.
however they felt about something, they got to dictate that, and that's really scary. And okay, I love Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know not everyone loves her, but I think she's a firebrand, and I think she's done a lot of great things.
I agree.
One of the things that she's doing is she is going after a DC judge because of their malfeasance.
Bless
and-
her heart.
Yes. Let's take a look at her
yeah.
congressional hearing yesterday.
You have already abused your position by maliciously prosecuting at least 1,000 people from January 6th, but you recently announced that you're going to arrest at least 1,000 more. Let me remind everyone the manner in which you go about your January 6th prosecutions. A man named Matthew Perna, who had no criminal record, peacefully entered the Capitol through an open door on January 6th. He stayed inside roughly 20 minutes. He didn't assault anyone, not a police officer, anyone. He didn't damage any property. He fully cooperated with the FBI and eventually pled guilty to all charges. But right before his sentencing, you, Mr. Graves, asked the judge for more time to object to the pre-sentence report, by the way, while you weren't prosecuting many of the crimes in D.C. This was so that you could ask for at least a few more years in prison for the guy that walked around in the Capitol for 20 minutes, not assaulting anyone. And this is what you've done repeatedly, over and over, for those who've pled or have been convicted on January 6th. Well, 2 weeks later, Matthew Perna hung himself in his garage, Mr. Graves. He was 37 years old. On March 9th, 2022, you dropped the case against Matthew Perna because he was dead. The time for weaponizing the Department of Justice needs to come to an end. And because you refuse to prosecute real criminals that are violating all the crimes here in Washington, D.C., and you want to talk about D.C. residents, they are victims of your abuse of power. And because of that, I am introducing articles of impeachment on you, Mr. Graves, and I yield back the remainder of my time.
So it's actually the DA there in D.C. who has done a terrible job prosecuting any crime besides January 6th people. So
Yeah, and did you notice when they broke into the Capitol, or broke in, they were
we're
let
let
in.
in.
You notice they didn't tear down any statues, they didn't spray paint anything. Nobody had a weapon. The only person who died that day was an Air Force veteran who was murdered by a Capitol police officer of color. And he was exonerated.
Yes,
Let
but
off the hook completely. That's called getting away with murder.
well, and thanks to Marjorie Taylor Greene for always being bold and
Amen.
being willing to put things out there. So,
Amen. All right.
when we get back, we'll be talking about what the heck is going on at the border.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
At Get Real America, we are focused on Savannah, but we'd like to hear from other communities as well. We have a lot in common. Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard this morning, and all those illegal aliens who might be looking at us as they stream in as we stream along.
Yeah, and one of the video footage that came out yesterday was a U.S. soldier actually opening a gate for illegal immigrants to come into the country illegally. So,
What was he doing that for?
I don't know if it was instruction from the Biden administration, but it is a violation of U.S. Code 1324 and 1327.
Those are 2 of my favorite codes.
Yeah, so I think that that's interesting that, you and I were talking about it this morning. It's like if your boss tells you to do something illegal, do you do it?
Yeah, excellent question. I always wondered when I'm working at iHeartMedia and the radio station, I was worried that they were going to finally say, everybody's going to have to get the Fauci ouchie. Fortunately, they didn't. But I did have a couple of callers say, what would you do if they did? And I said my resignation would be on my superior's desk within a half an hour after my last show.
Yep, and that's why I'm no longer in corporate, because it got to the point that they were putting so much pressure on me as a manager to influence my people to get the jab, and I could not do that.
And again, nobody's apologizing. Nobody from corporate America, nobody from these hospitals is apologizing for all the misery they put us through, and for the medical people who stood up for their profession and said this isn't right, and were threatened with their jobs. And in fact, they were I think the Mayo Clinic fired something like 600 nurses.
Well, and how's that working out for them?
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to the hospital, I was in the ER Friday night with a friend, but you wouldn't believe the amount of people that were there. I mean, they didn't have a bed. It was crazy. And it's because I think they're short on nurses because of their policies on the jab.
Exactly. And we found out, and of course now they're scrambling, just like the airlines, that foolishly let all their pilots go and everybody else. And then now that the rush has come back with a vengeance, and we got more people flying now than we had pre-pandemic, they're saying, we don't have enough pilots. Well, maybe you should have thought of that.
Yeah, thinking things through is not really within the corporate mindset anymore. I'm not really sure what they're doing. One
of the doctors that Laura Ingram talked to that caught a lot of brickbats just passed away suddenly. She paid tribute to him. Laura Ingraham paid tribute to him last night on the Ingraham Angle on the Fox News channel. But he was one that even 2 years ago, he said, these shutdowns aren't necessary. Kids need to be in school. These masks aren't necessary because they're not that helpful. And brother, he almost lost his license over it. And several doctors, I think, did lose their license over the fact that they stood up for what was right and what was medically correct. But when you've got a medical profession now that will go ahead and perform sex change operations on teenagers or younger, what in the hell has happened?
Well, and I will tell you, I worked with a lot of medical boards. I helped doctors facilitate licensing, and California was one of the worst medical boards to work with, and they are definitely politically motivated. And I think it's very stressful for physicians, because if any action is taken on their license in California, they can receive action on every single license that they hold within the United States. So, and California is the standard that people follow because of their rules on certain things. And so it's very interesting. I mean, I've been out of that field for about, almost 5 years, but I think it's interesting if that had changed or not. But when I was working in licensing, they were kind of the arbiter of truth, and people followed their policies in other states.
Sorry to hear that.
Yep. So it's very interesting. And I think that, like I said, California is one of the most politically motivated states we have. So kind of scary when you think about it. Our friend Lizzie is with us this morning, and she said, why should any American have to go through passport control when we are letting these people with zero control? We're letting these people in with zero control.
Yeah.
What's going on at the border? What border? We don't have a border anymore. And then this was an interesting comment about just our politicians. That's why wives are often appointed to the deceased husband's seat. Now elected seats are considered property of a family. And we have seen that time and time again.
What do you think? We had actually heard from John Fetterman yesterday, and of course his wife is the one that's the power behind the throne, shall we say? He's just the sock puppet.
And she is.
And she's. I think her ambition is that he's not going to be competent enough to fulfill his duties, and he's not. He shouldn't be there in the first place. But I think her ambition is to get appointed once they declare him mentally incompetent.
Well, the interesting thing about that though is like, okay, so you didn't think you were electable as his wife, but he was electable. Like, I mean, she's a little on the crazy side for me, but at least she can put some sentences together.
Yeah, but the pox on both your houses, those of you in Pennsylvania who didn't vote for Mehmet Oz, because with some dumb excuse of he hadn't lived here long enough, or this that. Oh please, when you could tell from the debate that they finally had that he that Fetterman got his head handed to him. It was such an embarrassment that anybody that was stupid enough to vote for this fool is unbelievable. And I'm sorry about his medical condition, okay? But he doesn't have any business being a senator. He didn't have any business still being in the race after he had a near fatal brain hemorrhage and stroke. It was just, he is not qualified. It's cruelty. Just like we said, it's elder abuse with President Biden, and Dr. Jill, who's not a doctor, keeps propping him up and encouraging him to stay in the race, along with some others. Although I think there's a lot of mess going on behind the scenes now, Brittany, of people just like they did, I think, with Lyndon Johnson.
Absolutely.
When he made that famous announcement on television, I was a college student at the time, and I was watching, with our slack-jawed, as he said, I will not accept, and I will not run again, nor will I accept the nomination for president, and left office.
Well, at least he was honorable enough to do that.
Yeah.
Biden is pushing forward with his re-election.
I think there was a lot of it being taken to the woodshed at the time behind the scenes of saying, Lyndon, this ain't working. The Vietnam War is dragging on, and we're inflation's bad and everything else. We can't have you running again for president.
Well, we'll see what happens with this whole Biden thing, because he's one of the most unliked presidents in history. So.
He got the lowest poll numbers at this point of his presidency in history, at least as long as they were taking polls.
Yes, and our friend Steve Statton is with us this morning. We will just lower the standards for pilots. 2 birds, 1 stone. Get more pilots and check the equity box.
Oh, we got AI coming along. There is, that they are working on the point of just having 1 pilot because, the planes are getting so good. They can pretty much fly themselves, but
That's still scary to me.
I do want a human being in the cockpit. Okay?
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
they are working on the concept because once upon a time, the bigger jets used to have a navigator. Have 3 people in the cockpit. Now there's just 2 because of all the as advanced as the electronics has gotten and everything else that you don't need a navigator. But now they're talking about, and this would save the airlines a lot of money if you only had 1 pilot. I'm not sure I'm crazy about that deal.
Nope, I'm definitely not.
but,
We've seen how well it's worked out with those Tesla cars that can drive themselves.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah,
So,
not excited about
no,
it.
no, not a deal. In fact, that was one of the things that a lot of the pilots were complaining about. We had Boeing and Airbus, that were the 2 big manufacturers of planes. Most of the pilots much preferred the Boeing to the Airbus because the Airbus, they said, had too much safety equipment or too much computer control.
Well, we've talked about driving our cars and how annoying it is.
Yeah, but
And
that they couldn't override a system when the computer said one thing and an experienced pilot said, "No, we're not supposed to do that." So that's just one of the things that we have to worry about.
Absolutely. Well, I think also our trust in technology makes me uncomfortable. There's, of course, humans make mistakes on things as well, but I would rather have a human making a mistake than a computer because I don't think the computer can react as well as someone that is experienced in what they're doing.
Exactly.
So it does scare me how willing we are to say, AI is going to fix the employee shortage that we have. It's going to fix the pilot issue we have. It's going to fix all these problems for us, but will it create more problems?
Yeah, and if you remember the movie Sully, about the miracle on the Hudson, you remember they when they were going through the trial, they went through the simulators and said, you could have gotten. We went through a simulator and you could have gotten back to Teterboro or you could have gotten back to JFK or something like that, because we ran it in the simulator and the simulator did it. And finally, Sully asked, "How many times did you have to run that simulator to get it to work where you wanted it to?" And they said, 17. He said, I had 90 seconds, one shot at it, 90 seconds. And of course, when they finally found and examined the engines after they pulled them out of the drink, they found out that, Sully was right. Those engines were gone. There was no way of restarting them and gliding into to Teterboro. He would have hit some buildings or something, and it would have been god awful. Everybody would have died, and a bunch of people on the ground would have died. And as it turned out, everybody lived. If you saw that was the most amazing video footage I think I've ever seen of this plane just gliding in and landing, because it could have gone teapot over tea kettle, cartwheeling.
Well, there is no substitute for experience.
No, there's
None.
not. And here's the experience. First of all, not only was he, I think, an experience, he was either Navy or Air Force pilot, so he had a lot of combat fighter experience, a lot of experience as an airline pilot, and get this, he was also a glider pilot.
Okay.
He flew gliders as a hobby, so he kind of knew how to bring that thing in and give it at just the right angle and land it on there, and it was perfect, and everybody lived. Amazing. And he could probably still be a pilot today if they didn't have these stupid rules that originally pilots had to retire at 63, which I thought was really stupid. I think they pushed that up to maybe 65 or 7 now, but I'm sure Sully could probably still fly an airplane.
Yeah, I think if there's so many different ranges for age. Like I know a lady that's the same age as my great grandma, and I know. And they're not even comparable. One is like a young 78, and the other one is like an old 78. So I think it just depends on where people are in their life.
Look, the perfect example of the 2 presidential candidates.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, one can carry a full conversation. The other one, you're wondering, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So
coming
up next.
This thing in Wyoming, Bill, with transgenders in sports.
How would you like to be a member of a girls' sorority? I tried to join the Coyotes when I was at Ole Miss, and it didn't work well.
I can't believe they didn't allow you to join.
Yeah, I was very disappointed.
You
Yeah.
should be. You should be.
Or the Tri Kappas, whatever it was. I just couldn't get in.
Well, now you can sue them for discrimination.
I can.
So when we get back, we'll be talking about that.
You just get ready. At Get Real America, we want to make sure that the real story gets out, and you can help us as a sponsor or as an advertiser to make sure that that word does get out to the community.
Be a sponsor and support your local community here at Get Real America.
I don't think it's an accident that I ended up writing music for a living, because I think I lived in a house where I saw how deeply it affected everyone in the house. And just how much everyone defined themselves by the music they listened to.
Music as a framework, I think, gave my parents my identity from a young age. You can like any music that you want if it makes you feel happy. And now when I hear certain songs, I think of them, and I think of them in their happiest state, and it makes me happy.
If they seem like they're having trouble talking about something, I try to tell them about a time when I felt something similar.
Whatever the issue was, we would tell them the pros and cons and how important it was, and that they had come to us because we could always help them. I think the real important point, we always told them, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, we will help you through it no matter what it is.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934. With personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Wednesday, Hump Day. And were you in a sorority when you were in college?
No, I didn't have a typical college experience. It took me a while to graduate from college because I did it without any support, and I lived by myself and worked full time. So
Okay.
it was a different experience.
Well, I managed to cram a 4-year curriculum into 5. But,
very impressive.
And I was what they call a GDI. I can't tell you what that stands for. Because it's a little on the obscene side, but the I is independent, so I was not a member of a fraternity when I was at Ole Miss, but I sure would have liked to have been a member of one of the sororities.
I bet you would have,
because they were absolutely that. Most of those girls at Ole Miss were drop dead gorgeous, and the Chi O's kind of led the trail, but the Tri Delts weren't too bad either, or the Phi Mu's. And a lot of those girls were, just great, and would have loved to have, maybe stayed in the house for a few times. But there's a guy out in the University of Wyoming that's managed to do that.
Very impressive.
Yes. Laura Ingram, I talked to him about it last night. The girls aren't too happy about it, believe it or not, with this transgender guy coming in and saying he's a member of the fraternity, the sorority, and with somebody's full approval, somehow.
When college students join sororities, many of them do it for the sisterhood, for a place to belong, for lifelong friendships. They don't do it in hopes that a man will invade their personal space, staring at them silently, creeping them out. But that's exactly what happened at the Kappa Kappa Gamma House at the University of Wyoming, according to a new lawsuit. 6 sorority sisters say they were forced by the national chapter to allow a man, Artemis Langford, into their women-only organization because Langford says He's transgender. Now, what comes with being inducted into this sorority is unfettered access to the house, where about 40 college girls live. Now, a house where men, even fathers and boyfriends, are banned from being on the second or third floors because that's where the bedrooms and the communal bathrooms are. But Langford had access to all of it. According to the lawsuit, several times Langford had chosen to sit for hours on the couch in the second floor common area. Langford stares at women walking past. One sorority member walked down the hall to take a shower wearing only a towel. She felt an unsettling presence, turned, and saw Langford watching her silently. The suit also alleges that he has watched members enter the house and sometimes had an erection visible through his leggings. Other times he had a pillow in his lap. Joining me now exclusively for an interview are three of the sorority sisters suing, Hannah and Jalen, who are both juniors, and Allie, who just graduated, along with their attorney, Cassie Craven from Longhorn Law. Hannah, let's start with you. How did all of this initially hit you when you were told that a man was to be a member of your sorority?
Yeah, we were all shocked. I can speak for myself saying, never thought this would happen to me, especially in a sorority, in a space for women. We were never told it was a unisex space. We joined under the impression that it was a single-sex organization.
Well, Jalen, I read the accounts of what made the sisters of the sorority uncomfortable about Artemis. What did he say to you or to any of you that you know that made you uncomfortable?
There were a lot of uncomfortable moments in the sorority house, and it just goes to show the importance of women's spaces ultimately. And that's why we're here today, is we're fighting for the importance of women's spaces and what it truly means to be a woman. We were promised from the beginning that we would have a sisterhood, meaning only females, and our national sorority has failed us. They have blatantly ignored us and ignored our values and valued someone else over us in this uncomfortable situation.
Yeah, well, Cassie, we reached out to the KKG national chapter, and they told us that while we cannot comment in detail on this pending litigation, it contains numerous false allegations. KKG values diversity and does not discriminate based on classes protected by state, local, or federal law. Well, Cassie, I guess they're relying on federal law here. I don't think Wyoming has state protections in this regard, but nevertheless, it looks like they're going to lean on the feds to win this case for them.
Laura, I just don't see a way out for them. They want everyone to believe that being a woman is nothing more than wearing lipstick and the pronouns that you use. And we all know that it amounts to womanhood. It amounts to a lifetime of experiences, and that's what they seek to deprive these young women of, and that's what we intend to fight for.
Now, Cassie, I guess Artemis doesn't live in the house, and according to the lawsuit, was given a waiver, so he didn't have to live there. Now, why is this?
Laura, we've seen extreme preferential treatment given to the individual involved, and it's very disheartening that when you're a 6'2", 260-pound man, you're treated as the victim in today's society. But the bylaws are very clear. This is an all-women's organization. Kappa was formed over 100 years ago to be that support system for women so that they could compete in the classroom against men. And now we just cease to exist. We're nothing more than an idea of self-identification.
Well, Allie, here's Artemis being interviewed by the school newspaper back in October. This was last year, talking about being admitted to your sorority, saying, "I feel so glad to be in a place that I think not only shares my values, but to be in a sisterhood of awesome women that want to make history. They want to break the glass ceiling, trailblazing, and I certainly feel that as their first trans member." Allie, did you all sign up for trailblazing to have a man live in your sorority?
No, we certainly did not. When I joined back in the fall of 2019, I was promised a sisterhood, which obviously you would assume would be women. And so for that to automatically change my senior year, it caught us all off guard for sure.
So aren't women a protected class?
Well, to join a fraternity or a sorority, you have to be invited. They have just before school starts every year, they have what's called Rush, where where the guys and the gals go through the different houses,
Tests,
and they're interviewed, and they are vetted by each member of the sorority or fraternity, and given an invitation on whether or not they want them to come in, they become a member, and then they have to go through all this. They go through a lot of the hazing stuff of the initiation type thing.
Yes.
And some of it's pretty funny.
Yes.
Others that we've heard, of course, the horror stories of people who've been killed, died because of some of the stupidity that they've wrought upon them for the so-called initiation crap. But and so they put up a lot of new rules and restrictions on that. But at the same time, you have to be invited to be in. All of a sudden, the Kappa Kappa Gamma headquarters says you got to let this guy in because it's now in vogue to have guys becoming women and women becoming men. Please.
Well, and I think so. Again, we talk about this a lot, but being over-sexualized and having an over-sexualized population, this is also like a fetish for men to dress up as women and you to participate in their fantasy. It's disgusting. I'm sorry. I just don't see why this is okay. I feel bad for anyone that is going through dysphoria, but it impacting women in this way, I don't understand. Where are all of the men to stand up for women? Men were created to protect women. Where are you? And there's a lot of women standing up right now, and Riley Gaines is probably one of the bravest women that I've seen.
Exactly right, and still, catching a lot of grief.
Oh yeah.
For what she's standing up for, and yeah, right. Where are the guys? And
they're in the locker rooms.
Yeah, that's
checking out the women. I'm sorry, that's a very uncomfortable space to be in, and Riley Gaines, what she said in front of Congress the other day was that when she went to one of the officials of the swim meet when he was allowed in the locker room, they said, well, we just made the locker rooms unisex to get around this. So any man could have had access to those restrooms or the locker rooms. That is absolutely not okay, that they were never notified and that men could have just walked in there. Women do need to be protected. If a man goes toe-to-toe with me, I don't have a chance, Bill. So what are we doing in this country? I'm very upset about this, and I just don't understand why no one is standing up for this. I mean, there are people, but where are the masses of people that we should have?
Exactly right. It's just pathetic what we're going through, and the fact that the people are going along with this and thinking it's a good. I don't know where they think this is a good idea. Where have we gone off the rails here?
Well, you look at Loudoun County, and that a child was raped, and that person was allowed to go to another school and do the same thing to another.
Yeah, up in Virginia.
What is wrong with these people? And the fact that they have every right to do it.
Yeah.
No, they actually don't.
No, they don't. And this is a society in decline, and we need to put a stop to it. I do believe in America, but we're going to have to stand up. And we may not be able to get apologies from these cretins in the FBI or in the media, but you can vote some of these people out. As Senator, one of my favorite senators, John Kennedy from Louisiana, says, you can't fix stupid, but you can vote it out of office.
Yes, and we'll be talking about that when we get back.
Coming up next.
Who is a kid? Well, that's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
I'm coming home, Savannah. We'll never be alone, Savannah. The beauty of the world, Savannah. Let's all take a ride, Savannah. I'm coming home, Savannah.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934 with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Going down the home stretch here on this hump day. Here it is, the 17th day of May. Another warm one for here in Savannah, going up
Always.
to the mid-80s.
Yes, it's warm from here on out, Bill, I think.
Yeah,
I think we're,
pretty much. I think
in
you're
the
right.
steam room for the long haul.
Yep. Kind of cool off when we have more global cooling in November.
Yes. I mean, is that climate change?
Yeah, that's it. It's climate change.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens.
Or we call them seasons when we were normal people.
That's right, yeah, because we're not idiots. Before we go any further, I do want to mention it is National Police Week. And yesterday we had the police memorial that takes place downtown in front of the original Savannah Police Barracks and headquarters on Habersham Street. And one of my dear friends and classmates who was a member of my drill team when I was in high school, Jimmy Marchbanks, is on that wall. Was killed shortly after when I had moved back here, and he had I just heard the word about his passing shortly after I moved back to Savannah back in 1977. You do the math.
Wow.
But it was sad, and it was one of those. It was the amazing thing was, Brittany, he had his vest. Somebody shot him, and he had his vest on. But the problem, he for some reason, is one of those strange things where he turned at a certain angle and it went under the vest, and he lost his life. But great kid, And we all, it's one of those people that, to know him was to love him. And there are a lot of other names on that wall of people who have sacrificed themselves for our protection. And those people deserve our respect and honor and not being defunded. Fortunately, we don't do that here. We still like our police here in Savannah. In fact, we've increased the salary. We've increased incentives to come here. It's still difficult because of all the anti-police rhetoric that's going on around the rest of the country. But thank God we have our police officers and all those who are serving us in blue. Salute. Thank you. But every week here, by the way, is National Police Week.
Yes, we definitely support our officers and thank them for their service because it is not easy, especially thank you to their families because it's not easy to have someone that you have to worry about all the time when they leave the house. So,
yeah.
Back to the best women are men.
Yeah.
And guess who agrees with that? Sports Illustrated, I think we have the cover, which is just unbelievable.
Time Life Publishing does it again. Communists all, and here we go with the swimsuit edition is out.
Yes.
You'll love this.
It's amazing what makeup can do. I will just say that. And filters. It's unbelievable how many people say you actually look like your photos. I'm like, yeah, I don't use any filters. Turns out, all of my pictures are actually just me.
For sure.
So quite interesting. I hope most people are done with Sports Illustrated. I hope that all of these companies that are promoting this are going to suffer the consequence of consumers not buying anymore because that is one thing people can do without being outed. So they don't have to be publicly vocal, but you can spend your cash where it matters. And hopefully no one will be buying Sports Illustrated, especially because that's like a men's magazine? Like
to a degree, well, a swimsuit edition was certainly for guys. There's no doubt about it. I knew it was spring when Elle Macpherson was on the cover.
That's far from Elle Macpherson.
Yeah, there you go. Boy, isn't it ever? Yeah, it's just the exact opposite.
So I don't know who's buying Sports Illustrated, but I wouldn't let your friends see it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. So once again, Time Life Publication, great communist organization that you can't. I remember when I was at Ole Miss, they were doing a feature on the Southeastern Conference cheerleaders, and they came to Mississippi, and they were interviewing people, and Archie Manning was our quarterback at the time. Loved Archie, great guy. Had him up at the campus radio station talking to us on numerous occasions. Very unassuming young man. Was not overly impressed with his enormous strengths and powers as one of the best quarterbacks to ever play college football. And now I watch his, and then since then I've watched his sons win Super Bowls.
That's so cool.
But Archie was one of those who was targeted, let's say, by Sports Illustrated. They went around. We actually had the reporter from Sports Illustrated talking to people. Said, "Give us the dirt on this guy. He really can't be that goody two shoes, is he?" I said, "Well, I said nobody's perfect, but Archie's as close to it as you can get as far as somebody who is a superstar on the field and on campus, and it didn't let it go to his head, but they were trying to dig up something." Because they didn't, of course, they didn't like Ole Miss anyway because we were such racists there, waving the rebel flags and that sort of thing. Wow. Ooh.
Well, and
I thought I was cheering for my team. I didn't realize I was a racist.
Well, and yeah, I'm kind of, I'm racist out if I'm being honest.
Yeah, as the old country and western song says, my give a damn's broken.
Well, and I don't know. I also think that there's a lot of value in just going back to Martin Luther King, who was also an imperfect man, but said some very intelligent things. And we should be focused on the content of someone's character and not the color of their skin, because when we focus on the
rolling over in his grave now over what the garbage that's going on now. And now it is. Remember Corinne Jean-Pierre, who, if she's not the dumbest woman in the world, she's in the top two. She was saying about how the Biden administration is so fair because we've got the most bisexual, we've got the most trans, we've got the most
we have the most check marks. That's all that it means.
That's right. Those people of color, most Hispanic. She goes down the list and is like, at no point did she mention they were qualified or competent.
And we see that every day.
That box isn't checked anywhere on these people.
No, it definitely is not. And I think that, I don't know, Bill, I think that the more we continue to talk about race and divide each other by race, the worse it's going to get. When I'm out in public, I don't really see that. I have...
None of us do.
Well, I have these cute little neighborhood kids. They're all black, and there's like 7 of them. And when they see me with my dog, they all run across the street.
Mm-hmm.
They pet him. They're talking to me. They're friendly, and they're great kids.
It doesn't bother you that they're black?
No, not at all. I think they're hilarious. The little kid was doing. He's probably like. I'm a bad judge of how old kids are, but he's probably like 8. He's doing like backflips, like just off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty incredible athletes they are. They were playing basketball and stuff yesterday too. It was pretty fun, but.
I hope we get to show it, but we'll try to find it. Maybe use it tomorrow. But there is a interview that about 20 or 30 years ago that Morgan Freeman on 60 Minutes did with Mike Wallace, and he said, and he was criticizing. Freeman was criticizing Black History Month. He said, I don't want Black History Month, and Mike Wallace said, why not? He said, because it's American history.
Yes.
He said, he said, and Wallace says, well, I'm Jewish, and this, so and so and so. Actually, it's the first time I realized that I didn't know that Mike Wallace was Jewish. But he said, well, do you want a Jewish History Month? He said, no. He said, why not? He said, well, what good would it do? He said, well, what do we do about all this racial stuff? He said, let's quit talking about it.
I 100% am on board with that sentiment, and I think that. We should be Americans first. And I think that that's where things have gotten lost on us, is that we don't think, we divide ourselves by all these other categories before being American. And at the end of the day, we're all Americans, and that's really all that should matter.
One of the analogies that I like to use is that, let's say you're being wheeled into an operating room, and you need some, or your kid is being wheeled into the operating room for emergency surgery. They've been in some sort of an accident, and time is essential. The clock is ticking. Any trauma surgeon will tell you, talk about the golden hour after somebody is injured in a car accident or something like that, that if they can get to them within an hour, they can save them. One of my best friends was a trauma surgeon here some years back, and he said, there were so many times if I'd have, and I don't know how this works, but he said, I knew that if I had gotten them 15 or 20 minutes earlier, I could have saved them. But as it was, I couldn't. But imagine you're being your kid or your wife or husband is being wheeled into the operating room, and the entire operating team is standing around doing nothing. And you look around. Well, why aren't they starting the operation? Why aren't they working on it? Well, the Hispanic anesthetist is not here yet. We only have the white guy, so we don't have a balanced operating team. So until he's on his way back from Statesboro, should be here in about a half an hour, and we can start the operation then. How would you like it? How would you like that? And I'm afraid that the way things are going, that's exactly what's going to happen. Well, we can't start the operation yet. The black surgeon's not here.
Yeah, I literally just don't care. Like, I don't care what color you are. Are you a good person? Do you do the right thing? That's what I care about, because
the job is to fix what's wrong and recover. That's that's the whole thing. Do you know what you're doing?
Well, and at the end of the day, Bill, like, I just like don't want to talk about the fact that I'm white. I don't want to talk about the fact that you're black. I don't want to talk about the fact that you're Hispanic, like,
or gay,
yeah,
or anything else.
I don't care. Like,
no.
I think that we need to get back to humanizing each other and being like, are you a good person? Do we agree on everything? No, but I'm sure you have a wonderful marriage. Do you agree with your wife 100% of the time?
Heck no.
I mean, I think that we have unrealistic expectations of each other. And I think we also have to start living in reality that, just because I disagree with you doesn't mean that I don't think you're a good person. I just think that we don't have the same goals on different things, and that's okay. But we're not seeing that anymore, Bill, and it's very concerning to me.
Yeah, it is, and that's the whole point of just the human race. That was one of my favorite lines from Al Capp, who was the creator of Little Abner, cartoon series and became a movie and a Broadway play and everything else. But they said they were talking about these interracial marriages, and he said, "Well, I just thought there were marriages of the human race."
Yep.
So I mean, there you go, perfect.
Yep, that's a great way to end our show today. And
Sure is.
Want to thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to download our app. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo. What about Twitter? And I think
Spotify.
Yes, and our Apple and
Lizard
Twitch.
Spit.
Yes.
Twitch.
Twitch. That's the newest one.
Yeah, my favorite.
So yeah, it's Bill's new favorite. Who knew?
Uh-huh.
So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Take care.